Hey everyone, thanks for being here. If you're enjoying this, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Tonight's story is about a place that shouldn't exist, a war that history will never record, and the night I had to teach children how to kill or be killed. I remember the exact moment I knew we were out of time. It was a Thursday evening in late October, and I was standing in the eastern corridor of Blackthorn Hall, watching Delilah Cross practice her transfiguration exercises. At 17 in appearance, but 89 years in truth, she'd mastered the shift from solid to mist faster than any student I'd taught in 3 centuries. Her form dissolved into vapor, slipped through the iron bars of the practice cage, and reformed on the other side with barely a ripple. Again, I told her, hold the transition longer this time. The Midnight Institute didn't use electric lights in the training halls. Candles and oil lamps created the right atmosphere for what we taught here. Delilah closed her eyes, and then she was gone. Genuinely absent, her physical form scattered into countless particles. At 20 seconds, she reformed, gasping despite not needing air, her legs shaking. "Better," I said. "Rest now." She slumped against the stone wall, trembling. Not from exertion, from fear. "Adrian," she said quietly, "is it true what they're saying? About the hunters?" I should have lied, but I'd never been good at lying to my students. "Yes," I said. "The Visarians?" "The Visarians." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "How long do we have?" "I don't know yet." I left Delilah and made my way through the Institute's winding corridors. The building had been here since 1692, built on the ruins of something even older. Gothic architecture mixed with colonial pragmatism. The walls were limestone, cold even in summer, and the narrow windows looked out over forests that stretched for miles. I found Vincent Hardwick in the armory, inventorying our weapons. He'd been my colleague for 60 years, a soldier in life, fought in World War I, died at Verdun, woke up 3 days later in a mass grave with a burning thirst. "We're not ready," he said without looking up. "I know. Half these kids can barely control their thirst around humans, and you want them to fight trained hunters?" He set down the sword he'd been examining. "This is insane, Adrian. We don't have a choice. Prague fell last month, Vienna the month before that. They're eliminating every sanctuary one by one." Vincent pulled out a map covered in red marks, confirmed attacks over the past year. Dozens of them, scattered across Europe and now creeping into North America. "How many Visarians?" he asked. "At least 20, maybe more." 20, he laughed bitterly. "We have 37 students and 4 instructors. The students are stronger than you think. They're children, Adrian." I didn't answer because he was right. A knock at my office door interrupted my thoughts later that evening. Natalie Crane entered, and I could smell the blood on her before I saw her face. Fresh blood, human blood, still warm. "I didn't mean to," she said immediately. "I lost control." "Is he dead?" "No, I stopped myself. He's unconscious behind the old church on Maple Street." I grabbed my coat. "Show me." We drove in silence. The abandoned church loomed against the night sky, its cemetery overgrown and forgotten. We found him, a man in his 30s, unconscious, 2 puncture wounds on his neck. I checked his pulse, weak but steady. We carried him to the hospital and I planted a compulsion in his mind, mugged, hit his head, didn't remember much else. On the drive back, Natalie spoke quietly. "You're not going to expel me?" "No, because you came to me, because you stopped yourself, and because in a few days, none of this is going to matter." "What do you mean?" "The Visarians are coming, Natalie. When they get here, feeding mistakes won't be our biggest problem." Back at the Institute, Vincent was waiting. "We have a visitor. You need to see this." He led me to the infirmary. The man on the bed was Thomas Brennan, an instructor from Prague. His clothes were torn and burned, his skin marked with symbols that looked carved with hot blades. "Thomas," I said, approaching. His eyes opened with difficulty. "Adrian, they found us. They killed everyone." "I know. We heard about Prague. You don't understand. They didn't just kill us. They studied us first, captured some of us alive. They're learning how to hunt us better." "What do you mean?" I heard them talking about a laboratory, about experiments. He grabbed my arm. "The leader, Elias Vossarian. He carries 3 blades that burned like sunlight, cut through us like paper." "The Blades of Dawn," I said quietly. "They're real. And they're coming here." "How long?" "Days, maybe a week." I gathered the other instructors, Helena Moss and James Reeve, in the old library. I told them everything Thomas had said. Helena looked grim. "If they have the Blades of Dawn, we can't fight them directly. Those weapons were blessed by the Vatican itself." "Then what do you suggest?" Vincent asked. "Maybe," I said slowly, "they don't know what's under the Institute." Everyone turned to look at me. I'd kept this secret for 178 years. "There are catacombs beneath this building, older than the Institute itself. I found them when I was renovating the foundation in 1847. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" Helena asked. "Because of what's down there." Silence filled the room. "What's down there, Adrian?" Vincent said. "The heart of Caius Noctis, the first vampire. Preserved and protected by magic I don't fully understand." "Jesus Christ," James whispered. "If that's true," Helena said carefully, "then the Vossarians aren't just coming to kill us. They're coming for the heart." Vincent stood abruptly. "That thing is dangerous, Adrian. If it falls into the wrong hands, then we make sure it doesn't. We destroy it if we have to." "Can it be destroyed?" "I don't know." The meeting ended without real conclusions. Just vague agreements to prepare the students and fortify our defenses. The next evening, I called an assembly. All 37 students gathered in the main hall. "We are under threat," I said. "A group of hunters called the Vossarians have been systematically destroying vampire sanctuaries across the world. They're coming here next." The hall erupted in frightened whispers. "These aren't ordinary hunters. They're trained, organized, and they possess weapons specifically designed to kill us. But we're not helpless. You've been learning control and discipline. Now you're going to learn how to use your abilities as weapons." A boy in the back raised his hand. "You're saying we're going to fight?" "I'm saying we're going to survive." Delilah stood up. "What do you need us to do?" "Tomorrow night, we begin combat training. Real training. Vincent will teach you how to fight. Helena will teach you tactics. I'll teach you how to use your abilities as weapons." "And if we can't stop them?" someone asked. "Then we make them pay for every inch they take." After everyone left, Delilah lingered. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For not lying to us. For treating us like adults." She moved closer. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course. Are you scared?" I considered lying, then decided against it. "Yes." "Good," she said. "That means you're taking this seriously." She left, and I was alone in the empty hall, surrounded by stone and shadow and the weight of 3 centuries of memories. Outside, through the narrow windows, I could see the forest stretching endlessly into the darkness. Somewhere out there, the Vossarians were coming. Somewhere out there, Elias Vossarian was sharpening his blessed blades. I'd survived the Black Death, the Inquisition, 2 world wars. I'd lived through so much. But standing there in that ancient hall, I felt the certainty settle into my bones like frost. This time was different. This time I might not survive. I pushed the thoughts away and headed back to my office. There was work to do. Defenses to plan, students to train, preparations to make. I was Adrian Valior, headmaster of the Midnight Institute, and I had a responsibility. Even if it killed me, I would keep these students safe. even if it meant becoming the monster I'd spent centuries trying not to be. The war was coming, and we would be ready. The training began the next night. Vincent started with the basics: how to move in combat, how to use speed without losing control, how to strike without telegraphing intent. The students gathered in the largest hall, a cavernous space with vaulted ceilings and stone pillars that had witnessed centuries of lessons far gentler than this. I watched from the balcony as Vincent demonstrated on a volunteer. The boy was quick, had good instincts, but Vincent was faster. In 3 moves, the student was on the ground, Vincent's hand at his throat. "Your enemy won't hesitate," Vincent said, pulling the boy to his feet. "They won't give you time to think. Every movement needs to be instinct." Delilah stood near the front, her expression focused. Beside her, Natalie looked pale, uncertain. The guilt from her feeding incident still hung on her like a shadow. "Pair up," Vincent ordered. "I want to see what you can do." The hall filled with the sounds of movement, feet sliding across stone, bodies colliding, the occasional grunt of effort or pain. I descended the stairs and moved between the pairs, observing, correcting stances, offering advice. "Don't pull your punches," I told one girl who was being too careful with her partner. "He's already dead. You can't hurt him permanently." She nodded and struck harder. Her partner staggered back, surprised. I stopped beside Delilah and Natalie. They were circling each other, both hesitant to make the first move. "Natalie," I said, "attack her. I don't want to. Attack her. Now." Natalie lunged, her movement clumsy but committed. Delilah sidestepped easily, caught Natalie's arm, and used her momentum to throw her to the ground. Natalie hit hard, the breath knocked from her lungs despite not needing it. "Good," I told Delilah. "Again." They went at it for another 10 minutes, and slowly, Natalie began to improve. Her movements became sharper, more confident. When she finally managed to land a hit, a solid punch to Delilah's ribs, both girls grinned despite themselves. "Better," I said. "Keep practicing." The training continued for hours. By the time Vincent called for a break, most of the students were exhausted, their clothes torn, their faces marked with bruises that would heal within the hour. I found Helena in the library, surrounded by maps and ancient texts. "Any luck?" I asked. She looked up, her expression weary. "I've been researching the Blades of Dawn. There are references going back to the 14th century, but the details are sparse. What I do know is troubling." "Tell me." "The blades were forged by the Vatican's secret order during the height of the Inquisition. They're not just blessed. They're infused with something called consecrated essence, blood of martyrs mixed with holy water and melted silver from destroyed artifacts. The metal itself is anathema to our kind. Can they be destroyed?" "I don't know, but according to these texts, they can kill us permanently. Not just the body, the soul. No resurrection, no regeneration. True death." I absorbed this information in silence. True death was rare for vampires. We could be staked, burned, decapitated, but given time and the right conditions, we could recover. These blades eliminated that possibility. "There's something else," Helena said quietly. "I found a reference to the heart of Caius Noctis." "What does it say?" "That consuming it grants immunity to all vampire weaknesses, sunlight, silver, holy artifacts, even the Blades of Dawn. But the cost is—" She hesitated. "The cost is your humanity. Complete transformation into something purely predatory. No conscience, no restraint, no memory of what you were. A monster. A god, according to the text. But yes, a monster." I thought about this. The heart beneath the Institute, preserved for centuries, waiting. I'd known it was powerful, but I hadn't understood the full scope of what it could do. "We can't let the Vossarians take it," I said. "No. But we also can't use it ourselves. Then we destroy it." Helena shook her head. "I've been looking for a way. So far, I haven't found one. The magic protecting it is ancient, complex. It might be impossible to destroy. Then we hide it better. Bury it deeper. Adrian, if the Vossarians know about it, and I think they do, they'll tear this place apart stone by stone to find it. Hiding won't be enough. I left her to her research and went to check the perimeter defenses. We'd spent the previous night reinforcing the walls, setting traps in the forest, establishing lookout positions. It wasn't much, but it might buy us time. Thomas found me on the eastern wall, staring out at the trees. "You should be resting," I said. "Can't sleep." His burns were healing slowly, the flesh knitting back together in ways that looked painful. "I keep seeing them. Keep hearing the screams." "I know." "Do you?" He turned to face me, his eyes haunted. "Have you ever watched everyone you cared about die while you ran away?" "Yes," I said quietly. "More than once." He was silent for a moment. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have." "Don't apologize. You survived. That matters. Does it?" "I left them behind, Adrian. I could hear them calling for help, and I just kept running. You came here to warn us. That took courage. It took cowardice. Real courage would have been staying to fight." I understood his guilt, recognized it because I'd felt it myself too many times. Survivor's guilt was a familiar companion for those of us who'd lived too long. "When they come," Thomas said, "I'm fighting. No more running." "Good. We'll need everyone." The next evening, during a break in training, Delilah approached me in my office. "I want to see it," she said. "See what?" "The heart. What's down there?" I studied her face, trying to understand her motivation. "Why?" "Because if we're going to die protecting it, I want to know what we're dying for." "We're not dying for the heart. We're dying to prevent it from being used." "Then I want to understand what could be so terrible." I considered refusing, but something in her expression stopped me. She was right. They deserved to know what they were protecting, what they were fighting for. "Come with me," I said. We descended through levels of the institute that most students didn't know existed. Stone stairs spiraled down into darkness, lit only by torches I'd placed decades ago. The air grew colder, damper, until our breath, unnecessary as it was, came out in visible clouds. At the bottom, a heavy iron door blocked the passage. I pulled out a key I kept on a chain around my neck and unlocked it. The door swung open with a groan of ancient metal. Beyond was a chamber carved from solid rock. In the center, on a pedestal of black stone, sat a glass case. Inside the case, suspended in some kind of preservative fluid, was a human heart. It still beat. Slowly, once every few seconds, the muscle contracted and released. No blood flowed through it, no body sustained it, but it lived nonetheless. Delilah stared at it, transfixed. "That's the heart of Caius Noctis, the first vampire, the source of our bloodline. It's still alive. In a sense. The magic preserving it keeps it in a state between death and life. Consuming it would transfer that power to the new host." She moved closer to the case, her hand reaching out but not quite touching the glass. "Have you ever been tempted?" "Every day for 178 years. "Why didn't you?" "Because I've seen what power without restraint does to people. It corrupts, transforms, destroys everything that makes us who we are. I'd rather die human than live as a god." Delilah was quiet for a long moment, her eyes still fixed on the beating heart. Finally, she turned away. "We should go back." As we climbed the stairs, she spoke again. "Thank you for showing me. Did it help?" "Yes. Now I know what I'm fighting against." The next 2 nights passed in a blur of training and preparation. The students improved rapidly. Fear was an excellent motivator. Vincent taught them tactics, how to work together, how to use the environment. Helena taught them the weaknesses of their enemies. The patterns hunters followed, the weapons they carried. I taught them how to kill. It wasn't easy, showing them how to use their abilities as weapons rather than tools for survival. How to use speed to strike before an enemy could react. How to use strength to break bones and tear flesh. How to feed in combat, using the confusion and pain of their victims as cover. They learned quickly. On the third night, the first sign appeared. One of the students on watch duty came running into the main hall, his face pale with terror. "There are symbols," he gasped, "in the forest, painted on the trees. They're glowing." Vincent and I exchanged glances, then followed the student outside. The symbols were exactly as described, strange angular marks painted in what looked like silver paint. They surrounded the institute in a wide circle, dozens of them, each one glowing with a faint, sickly light. "Consecrated silver," Helena said, arriving behind us. "It's a ward. They're marking their territory, telling us we're trapped." "Can we cross it?" Vincent asked. "Maybe, but it will hurt, and it will alert them to our position." I studied the symbols, recognizing some from old texts I'd read centuries ago. Binding marks, prison marks. The Vossarians weren't just hunting us, they were containing us. "They'll attack soon," I said. "Tonight or tomorrow night. We need to be ready." We gathered everyone in the main hall. I told them what we'd found, what it meant. "The Vossarians are here," I said. "They've surrounded us. When they attack, it will be fast and brutal. Stay together, watch each other's backs, and remember everything we've taught you. You're stronger than you think. You're faster than they expect. Use that." "What about running?" someone asked. "Can we break through the circle?" "Maybe, but they'll be waiting. Anyone who tries to flee will be picked off easily. Our best chance is to defend this position." Natalie raised her hand. "What about the heart? Shouldn't we move it?" "There's nowhere to move it to. The catacombs are the most secure location we have." "Then let's use it," she said. "Let someone consume it. Fight them with real power." The hall erupted in voices, some agreeing, others objecting. I raised my hand for silence. "No," I said firmly. "We're not using the heart. That's exactly what the Vossarians want, for us to become the monsters they claim we are. We fight them as we are, or we don't fight at all." "Even if it means we die?" Natalie's voice was sharp with desperation. "Even then." She sat down, her jaw clenched. But she didn't argue further. The attack came just before midnight. I was on the eastern wall when I heard it, a sound like wind chimes, high and clear, cutting through the night. The signal. They were coming. "Everyone to positions!" Vincent's voice echoed through the institute. Students scrambled to their assigned locations. We divided them into groups, some on the walls, some in the courtyard, some held in reserve. It wasn't a perfect strategy, but it was the best we could manage. The first breach came at the southern gate. I ran across the courtyard in time to see the doors explode inward, wood and metal shattering under some kind of battering ram. Through the smoke and debris, figures emerged, men and women dressed in dark clothing, faces covered, weapons gleaming in the moonlight. The Vossarians. They moved with military precision, forming a wedge, advancing into the courtyard. Behind them, more came through the broken gate, a steady stream of hunters pouring into our sanctuary. "Now!" Vincent shouted. Our students dropped from the walls, landing behind the Vossarians, cutting off their retreat. The hunters spun, surprised, and for a moment, chaos reigned. I threw myself into the fight, moving faster than human eyes could follow. My first target was a man with a crossbow. I disarmed him before he could fire, broke his arm, and left him screaming on the ground. The next carried a sword coated in silver. I avoided the blade, got inside his guard, and tore out his throat. Around me, the battle raged. Students fought with desperate ferocity, using every technique we'd taught them. Some fell, struck by blessed weapons, their bodies dissolving into ash. Others pressed forward, overwhelming hunters with sheer numbers and inhuman speed. Vincent was in the thick of it, a blur of motion, his hands and teeth weapons in themselves. He moved through the Vossarians like a scythe through wheat, leaving bodies in his wake. But there were so many of them. For every hunter we killed, 2 more seemed to take their place. They kept coming through the gate, an endless tide of trained killers, and slowly, inevitably, we were being pushed back. I saw Natalie go down, a silver bolt through her shoulder. She screamed, clutching at the wound, and 2 students dragged her to safety. Another student, Peter, I remembered his name now, was cornered by 3 hunters. He fought bravely, but a blessed blade found his heart, and he was gone. Nothing left but ash and the echo of his final scream. "Adrian!" Delilah's voice cut through the chaos. She was pointing toward the gate. A figure had entered the courtyard. He was tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in white instead of the dark clothing of the other hunters. In his hands, he carried 3 blades, each one shining with an inner light that hurt to look at. Elias Vosarian. The battle seemed to slow as he walked forward, his presence commanding attention. Hunters stepped aside, giving him room. Our students hesitated, sensing the danger radiating from this man. "Adrian Valior," Elias called out, his voice carrying across the courtyard. "Headmaster of the Midnight Institute, show yourself." I stepped forward, blood on my hands, fury in my chest. "I'm here." He studied me with cold, analytical eyes. "You've put up a better fight than I expected. But it's over. Surrender now, and I'll spare the students. They're young, misguided. They don't have to die. And what about me? You die. That's not negotiable." I laughed, a harsh sound. "Then we have nothing to discuss." "I think we do." Elias sheathed 2 of his blades, keeping one in his right hand. "You have something that belongs to the church, something ancient and dangerous. Give it to us, and this ends peacefully." So they did know about the heart. "The heart of Caius Noctis doesn't belong to the church," I said. "It doesn't belong to anyone. It's an abomination. It should have been destroyed centuries ago. Then why do you want it? If you just wanted it destroyed, you could have told us. We would have helped." Elias's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Uncertainty, perhaps, or guilt. "The church has plans for it," he said carefully. "Plans that involve using it. That's not your concern. It is when you're murdering my students to get it." We stared at each other across the blood-soaked courtyard, and I realized the truth. The Vosarians didn't want to destroy the heart. They wanted to control it, use it somehow, turn its power against us. "Last chance," Elias said. "Give us the heart, or everyone here dies." "Then I guess everyone dies." He sighed, almost regretfully. "So be it." The battle resumed with renewed violence. Elias waded into our ranks, his blade cutting through vampires like they were made of paper. Each strike was precise, fatal, leaving nothing but ash behind. Students tried to surround him, overwhelm him with numbers, but he was too fast, too skilled. I had to stop him. I charged across the courtyard using every ounce of speed I possessed. Elias saw me coming, turned, brought his blade up in defense. I dodged the first swing, felt the heat of it pass inches from my face, and got inside his guard. My fist connected with his ribs, and I heard something crack. He grunted, stepped back, slashed at me again. This time the blade caught my arm, and pain exploded through me. Not just physical pain, but something deeper, something that burned like acid in my veins. I stumbled back, clutching my arm. The wound wasn't healing. Blood, real blood, not the stored blood I fed on, ran down my sleeve. Elias advanced, his blade raised for a killing blow. Then Vincent hit him from the side, tackling him to the ground. They rolled together, Vincent trying to pin him, Elias struggling to bring his blade to bear. For a moment it seemed Vincent had the advantage. Then Elias's free hand came up with a knife, silver and blessed, and drove it into Vincent's chest. Vincent's eyes went wide. He tried to speak, but blood filled his mouth instead of words. "No!" I screamed. Elias pushed Vincent's body aside and stood up. Vincent's form began to dissolve, turning to ash on the cold stones. Rage consumed me, pure, primal fury that I hadn't felt in centuries. I launched myself at Elias again, faster this time, not caring about the blade, not caring about pain or death or anything except making him pay for what he'd done. We fought across the courtyard, trading blows, neither of us giving ground. His blade cut me again and again, each wound refusing to heal, each one draining my strength. But I kept fighting, kept pushing, kept forcing him back. Then Helena was there, attacking from Elias's blind side. She moved like liquid shadow, her hands going for his throat. Elias spun faster than should have been possible for a human, and his blade took her in the chest. She collapsed without a sound, her body crumbling to dust. I was losing. We were losing. All around me, students were falling, dying, disappearing into ash and memory. The Viserians were too many, too well armed, too prepared. We were going to lose. Unless. The thought came unbidden, terrible and tempting. The heart, down in the catacombs, waiting. If I consumed it, I could save them. I could become strong enough to destroy Elias, to kill every hunter in this courtyard, to protect what remained of my students. All it would cost was my humanity. I looked at Delilah, fighting desperately beside two other students. Looked at Natalie, still bleeding from her shoulder wound but refusing to retreat. Looked at all the young faces who trusted me, who believed I could save them. I made my decision. "Fall back!" I shouted. "Everyone to the main hall, now!" The students didn't need to be told twice. They broke contact with the hunters and ran for the building, covering each other's retreat. I stayed behind, holding the courtyard, buying them time. Elias watched me with those cold, analytical eyes. "Running?" he asked. "Regrouping." I turned and ran, not to the main hall, but to the eastern entrance, the one that led down to the catacombs. Behind me I heard Elias shouting orders to his hunters, telling them to pursue, to finish this. I reached the iron door, unlocked it with trembling fingers, and plunged down the spiral stairs into darkness. My wounds were still bleeding, leaving a trail behind me. But I didn't care. I had to reach the heart before the Viserians did. I burst into the chamber, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The heart was there, still beating in its glass case, still alive after all these centuries. I approached it slowly, my hand reaching for the glass. Then I heard footsteps on the stairs behind me. Someone else was coming. I turned, ready to fight, but it wasn't a Viserian coming down the stairs. It was Delilah. "What are you doing here?" I demanded. "I followed you." She stepped into the chamber, her eyes widening as she took in the beating heart. "I knew where you were going. Get out. It's not safe. You're going to use it, aren't you?" Her voice was quiet, understanding. "You're going to consume the heart." I didn't answer. Didn't need to. She could read it in my face. "Let me do it instead," she said. "No. I'm younger, stronger. I can handle the transformation better than you." "Delilah. Please, Adrian. You've spent centuries protecting people like me. Let me protect you this time." More footsteps on the stairs. Faster, heavier. The Viserians were coming. "There's no time to argue," I said, turning to the case. My hands gripped the glass, ready to shatter it. Then Delilah's hand closed around my wrist. Her grip was iron-strong, desperate. "I'm not letting you destroy yourself," she said. "If someone has to become a monster, let it be me. I have less to lose. You have everything to lose. And you have everyone counting on you. They need Adrian Valior, not some corrupted thing wearing your face." The footsteps were getting closer. We had seconds, not minutes. "Promise me something," Delilah said, her eyes meeting mine. "If I lose myself completely, if there's nothing left of who I am, you'll stop me. You won't let me become what the Viserians think we are." I wanted to argue, wanted to push her away and do this myself. But she was right. If I took the heart, There would be no one left to stop me if I became something uncontrollable. At least with Delilah, I could still intervene. "I promise," I said. She smiled, sad and resigned, then shattered the glass with her elbow. The preservative fluid spilled across the floor, reeking of chemicals and ancient magic. The heart continued beating, exposed now, vulnerable. Delilah reached in without hesitation, lifted it from the pedestal, and brought it to her mouth. "Delilah, wait!" She bit into it. The effect was instantaneous. Her body convulsed, back arching, eyes rolling back in her head. Black veins spread across her skin like ink in water, pulsing with each beat of the heart she was consuming. She screamed, but the sound wasn't human. It was something primal, agonized, transforming. I caught her as she collapsed, the half-consumed heart falling from her hands. Her skin was burning hot, fever bright, and her eyes, when they opened, were completely black, no white visible at all. "Delilah, can you hear me?" She looked at me, and for a moment, I saw recognition. Then she was gone, moving faster than I'd ever seen anyone move, disappearing up the stairs toward the battle above. I grabbed the remains of the heart, still beating weakly, still radiating power, and followed. The courtyard had become an abattoir. Bodies lay everywhere, hunters and students both, the living and the dying, ash mixing with blood on the ancient stones. The remaining students had formed a desperate circle near the main hall, surrounded by Vossarians, slowly being overwhelmed. Then Delilah emerged from the eastern entrance. She walked into the courtyard, and every head turned to look at her. There was something wrong with the way she moved. Too fluid, too predatory, like gravity affected her differently than everyone else. A hunter raised his crossbow and fired. Delilah's hand shot out, impossibly fast, and caught the bolt mid-flight. She crushed it to splinters, then was suddenly standing in front of the hunter. I didn't see her cross the distance. She was just there, her hand wrapped around his throat. She lifted him off the ground one-handed and squeezed. His neck crumpled like paper, and she dropped the corpse carelessly. The other Vossarians opened fire, crossbows, guns, everything they had. Delilah moved through the projectiles like they weren't there, each step leaving bodies in her wake. She didn't use weapons, didn't need them. Her hands tore through blessed armor like cloth. Her speed made her untouchable. Her strength was absolute. It was beautiful and horrible in equal measure. Elias Vossarian stepped forward, his 3 blades raised. "Abomination," he said quietly. Delilah's head tilted, studying him with those black, inhuman eyes. When she spoke, her voice was layered, multiple tones overlapping. "You came for power. Here I am." Elias attacked. His blades moved in perfect arcs, consecrated metal cutting through the air with lethal precision. Any vampire would have been destroyed instantly. But Delilah wasn't just a vampire anymore. She caught the first blade between her palms, the blessed steel inches from her face. Elias tried to pull it free, but she held it effortlessly. Then she yanked, and Elias stumbled forward, off balance. Delilah's knee came up into his stomach with the force of a sledgehammer. He flew backward, crashed into a stone pillar hard enough to crack it, and slumped to the ground. The other Vossarians hesitated, fear visible on their faces for the first time. "Run," Delilah said, her voice echoing unnaturally. "Run, and maybe I'll let you live." They ran. The hunters broke formation and fled through the shattered gate, abandoning their weapons, their wounded, their mission. Within seconds, the courtyard was empty except for our students, the dead, and Elias, who was struggling to his feet. Delilah walked toward him slowly, savoring his fear. "Delilah, stop," I called out. She paused, turned to look at me. For a moment, I thought I saw something in those black eyes. Recognition, maybe even gratitude. Then it was gone, replaced by hunger. "The hunters are gone," I said carefully. "We won. You can stop now." "Stop?" She laughed, and the sound was wrong, layered with harmonics that made my teeth ache. "Why would I stop? I can feel everything, Adrian. Every heartbeat in this courtyard. Every drop of blood. I can hear them calling to me. The remaining students backed away slowly, sensing danger. This is the transformation Helena warned us about, I said. The heart is changing you. You have to fight it. Fight it? Why? I'm stronger than I've ever been. Faster. Better. I'm what we were always meant to become. She moved toward the nearest student, Natalie, still bleeding from her shoulder wound. Delilah inhaled deeply, savoring the scent of blood. Delilah, look at me. I stepped between her and Natalie. You made me promise. If you lost yourself, I would stop you. Remember? For a long moment she stared at me, and I could see the war happening behind those black eyes. The girl she'd been fighting against the thing she was becoming. I remember, she whispered, and her voice was her own again just for a second. I remember everything, and it hurts, Adrian. Holding on hurts so much. I know. But you're still you. You're still Delilah Cross, the girl who mastered transfiguration faster than anyone I'd ever taught. The girl who wanted to know what she was protecting. You're still in there. Not for long. Tears ran down her face, black tears like ink. I can feel myself disappearing. Piece by piece, everything that makes me human is being burned away. Soon there won't be anything left except hunger. Then we end it now, while you're still you. She nodded slowly. Okay. But first. She blurred again, moving faster than thought, and was suddenly standing over Elias. He tried to raise his blade, but she kicked it from his hand, sending it skittering across the stones. You came here to destroy monsters, Delilah said, kneeling beside him. Let me show you what a real monster looks like. Delilah, don't... But she wasn't listening to me anymore. Her hand plunged into Elias's chest, and when she pulled it back, she was holding his heart, still beating, still alive. Elias gasped, his eyes wide with shock and agony. This is what you wanted to do to us, Delilah said softly. Tear us apart, study us, understand us. How does it feel? She crushed the heart in her fist. Elias Vissarion, leader of the most dangerous hunter family in history, died with a sigh that sounded almost relieved. Delilah stood up, her hand dripping with blood, and turned back to me. The humanity I'd seen moments ago was gone. Her eyes were empty, endless black voids that reflected nothing. Your turn, she said. I didn't run, didn't try to fight. I just stood there and waited. She crossed the courtyard in an instant, her hand wrapping around my throat, lifting me off the ground. Her grip was crushing, cutting off air I didn't need, breaking bones that would heal too slowly. Delilah. I managed to gasp out, thank you, for everything. Something flickered in her expression. Confusion, maybe, or recognition. You taught me how to hide what I was, she whispered. But you also taught me how to be proud of it. How to survive, how to fight. Her grip loosened slightly. I don't want to die as a monster, she continued, her voice breaking. I want to die as myself. As Delilah Cross, student of the Midnight Institute. Can you give me that? I understood what she was asking, what she needed. Yes, I said. She released me, and I fell to the ground, gasping. She knelt beside me, took my hand in hers. Her skin was still burning hot, pulsing with stolen power. Make it quick, she said. Please. I stood up slowly, my ribs aching where she'd cracked them. Around the courtyard, the remaining students watched in silence, understanding what was about to happen. I picked up one of Elias's blades, the one Delilah had kicked away. It felt wrong in my hand, the metal burning my palm, rejecting my touch. But I gripped it anyway. Close your eyes, I told her. She did. Think about something good. Something that made you happy. I'm thinking about the first night I successfully held the mist form, she said, smiling despite everything. 20 seconds. You said it was better. It was. I raised the blade. You were the best student I ever had, Delilah. I'm proud of you. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you. For giving me a chance when no one else would. For showing me I could be more than just a monster. I brought the blade down. The consecrated metal passed through her neck cleanly, and her head fell forward. Her body collapsed, and for a moment it held its shape. Then it began to dissolve, not into ash like the others, but into something else. Golden light, warm and soft, that rose into the night sky like embers from a fire. When the light faded, there was nothing left. Not even ash. She was gone. I dropped the blade and fell to my knees, exhaustion and grief washing over me in waves. Around me, the surviving students began to move, checking on each other, treating wounds, searching for survivors among the fallen. Natalie approached me carefully. Adrian, what do we do now? I looked around the courtyard. The institute was in ruins, walls breached, buildings burning, bodies everywhere. Vincent was gone. Helena was gone. Delilah was gone. So many students had died tonight, reduced to ash and memory. But some had survived. Natalie was alive. Thomas had made it through the battle. I could see others, maybe 7 or 8 students, still moving, still breathing, still existing despite everything that had tried to destroy them. We leave, I said finally. Pack whatever you can carry. We're not safe here anymore. Where will we go? I don't know, but we'll figure it out, together. Thomas appeared beside me, his burns finally healed, though scars remained. The Vossarians might come back, might send more hunters. Let them. They'll find nothing but empty halls and ashes. We'll be long gone. We spent the rest of the night gathering what we could, books, weapons, supplies. I went to my office one final time and retrieved the journal from my desk. All those names, all those students who'd passed through these halls. I couldn't leave them behind. As dawn approached, we gathered at the front gate, 9 survivors in total, 9 out of 37 students and 4 instructors. The cost had been devastating, but we were alive. Where to? Natalie asked again. I looked at each of their faces, young, scared, but still determined, still fighting. They'd lost their home, their teachers, their friends. But they hadn't lost themselves. West, I said. There are rumors of sanctuaries in California, places the Vossarians haven't found yet. We'll make contact, warn them about what's coming, and we'll rebuild. Start again somewhere new. And if the hunters find us there? I thought about Vincent, who died defending students he barely knew, about Helena, who'd spent her last moments researching ways to protect us, about Delilah, who'd sacrificed her humanity to save us all. Then we fight again, I said, and we keep fighting until either they're gone or we are. Because that's what we do. That's what it means to be one of us. Thomas smiled grimly. Sounds exhausting. It is. But it's also worth it. We left as the sun rose, walking away from the institute that had been home for so many years. I didn't look back. Couldn't bear to see what we were leaving behind. Behind us, the Midnight Institute burned. The fire would consume everything. The building, the bodies, the evidence that we'd ever existed. By the time anyone found the ruins, there would be nothing left to tell our story. But we would remember. We would carry the memories of those who'd fallen, honor their sacrifices by surviving, by continuing to exist in a world that wanted us dead. We would find new sanctuaries, train new students, teach them how to hide and how to fight. The institute was gone, but what it represented, hope, community, survival, would endure, as long as we endured. We walked through the forest as the sun climbed higher, the light filtering through the trees. It should have hurt, should have burned, but I'd taught these students well. They knew how to move during daylight, how to protect themselves, how to appear human even when the sun made their skin itch and their eyes water. After an hour, Natalie spoke quietly. "Do you think she's at peace, Delilah?" I thought about that final moment, the golden light rising into the sky, warm and soft and somehow hopeful despite everything. "Yes," I said. "I think she is." We walked on in silence. 9 survivors of a massacre that would never be recorded, never be remembered by anyone except us. 9 vampires heading west toward an uncertain future, carrying the weight of all those who hadn't made it. But we carried something else too, hope. Hope that somewhere out there we could find safety, that we could rebuild what we'd lost, that the Midnight Institute in some form could rise again. And if it didn't, if we were hunted down, if every sanctuary fell, if we were the last of our kind, then we would make our final stand worth remembering, not as monsters, as survivors, as family. The sun continued to rise and we walked on, leaving the ashes of the past behind us, moving toward whatever future we could build with our own hands. The war had cost us everything, but it hadn't broken us. And as long as we remained unbroken, there was still hope, still a chance, still a tomorrow. I was Adrian Valior, former headmaster of the Midnight Institute, and I had 9 students left to protect. It would have to be enough. It would be enough. We disappeared into the forest, into legend, into the spaces between human awareness where creatures like us had always existed. The Viserians would look for us, but they wouldn't find us. Not immediately, not while we had the strength to hide, to adapt, to survive. And someday, maybe in a decade, maybe in a century, we would return, not to Salem, not to the ruins of the Institute, but to the fight. Because that's what Delilah had shown me in her final moments. That even in transformation, even in corruption, even in the face of becoming something monstrous, we could still choose who we were. We could still choose to be human. Or at least, to remember what being human meant. The forest swallowed us, and we were gone. But we weren't finished, not by a long way. The story of the Midnight Institute had ended, but our story, the story of the survivors, was just beginning.